Alright. Going into a 24 tempo with the same group that I did with the last key. The 23 Ruby. The 23 Ruby that I just did a commentary over. Same group. We went from the 23 Ruby into this 24 temple. So this is the talent tree that I'm using. For temple, you don't need spell steal. Instead, you need the remove curse for the touch of ruin on the ads after the second boss from the Mistweavers. I always will run Dragon's Breath in temple. There's way too many important kicks that go off. In the first area, all the water speakers. Second area, the Haunting Scream, the Sleeping Soliloquy. Dragon's Breath for interrupting Golden Barrier from the Beetle. And then the entirety of the third and fourth area for mobs before the third boss and before the last boss. Dragon's Breath is really useful. Obviously, any of those kicks get off and your group basically wipes. So Dragon's Breath is pretty much a need for these cases. I obviously did end up swapping to the correct talent tree for this one, running Temporal Warp instead of Time Anomaly, because I did an oopsies last time. I did end up going full AoE for this. I ended up running Frostbite. I ended up running Sub-Zero. I'm not running Snowstorm for AoE, at least for Temple. I think there's still too many single target prio packs, and just not enough mass AoE to warrant Snowstorm. But that's entirely, you can run Snowstorm if you'd like. It's not too bad of a pick here. Oh, one thing I did forget to go into last time. I've typically been running Elemental Chaos and keys over the Tepid Verse file. As you see, I just used it there. I typically run the verse file if I don't have a druid in the group, just because the verse buff that we get from druids. But otherwise, I have typically been running Elemental Chaos lately. Again, I am running Iceblood Death Snare and then Icon as my trinkets. You don't really have to run those, but obviously if you're running an AoE dungeon, I would recommend Death Snare if you have it. It is just a very good AoE trinket, so... you do want to try and LOS these Tainted Ripples. I've missed the first two of them and been getting chunked by them. But I would recommend trying to LOS them if you can. Like this. You can just LOS them around a corner. One small trick that happens with this, at least for me with Frost Mage, you can actually flurry an LOS and move around a corner while the flurry's going off, and it actually won't interrupt the flurry cast. Like all your other flurry procs still actually go off. I should be blizzarding and frozen orbing here. I'm not sure why I'm not. So obviously still things to improve on. We all used kicks on that Hydro Lance. Lovely. Again, always just AoE rotation. Always sending Orb, always sending Blizzard, just keeping those up as much as possible. I'm not sure, I don't remember if we actually do it. I don't think we do. One really good thing with having Pally tanks is they may not have as good of damage or defensives as some other classes, but okay, we ended up dispelling one here. I typically like polying one of these mobs, just because there is so many kicks that go off in this, both the Hydro Lances and Tidal Bursts, especially in a fortified week. Any form of CC works, it doesn't have to be a poly, but if you just single target down one of the water speakers and then focus, and then you can pull the other one in, I think it's pretty beneficial. Because anyways, the big guys have so much health that if you just single target this guy down and pull the other one in, the second water speaker will die at like the same time as the elemental. So I hate playing on these stairs though, just because it's kind of aids for casting Blizzard at all. This one did end up lasting a little bit longer than the other one. I think people were focusing the Elemental more than the Water Speaker, but it's really whatever. I'd much rather have this safe pull and having only one caster at a time than two. Especially this, again, like I said, this group is doing a no comms. We're not in Discord at all. We're just full sending keys. And obviously, if you're in a little bit more of a coordinated group, you saw literally one Hydro Lance. One Hydro Lance. I didn't have barrier or anything up, but one Hydro Lance on a 24 fortified brought me from 100% to 38%. It literally did 62% of my health from one cast. So, obviously, if two of those get off and you have no defensives rolling, you're just dead. So, yeah. For this boss, I typically like sitting in this corner. I'm not sure if I get any of the Corrupted Vortex here on this boss. I will show you the trick that I do for these if I end up getting any of them. I also like sitting over here because it's a clear path for me to blink and get out of. So I actually alter time this one. You can alter time all the things. I'm hoping I don't get a Corrupting Vortex because I typically need my alter for each one of those. Okay, I do. The way I do this is I typically go back here, I alter time, and I run to this back corner, and then I'll alter time back. Unfortunately, since I didn't have alter, I didn't do that. But that's typically my strat for those. Again, doing the very min-maxy of using one Winter's Chill and then shifting power to get the benefit of Winter's Chill, but not getting the proc. Since I already used the first one and I didn't go all the way in the back like I normally do, for the second one, you can drop down below. You get silenced. I actually didn't there because I didn't go below. I was still visible from the boss. You can drop down below here, and that'll be fine. You can technically drop down here. However, you do get silenced and can't cast any spells while down there. So if you have any movements or anything like that, you need to use them prior. But this is what I typically do for all of the washaways. I just wait to determine which way it's spinning around, and then I will blink from one side to the other. So I normally blink from like here to here, or vice versa. It's a little sketch. I have a hard time going from right to left, or from left to right. Sometimes you get cucked by like the change in elevation. But that's typically what I do. You can alter time, you can ice block them. Any of them work fine. I'm guessing I blink here again. Okay, no, I used another alter. I'm definitely losing uptime. I'm not obviously always casting with ice flows, which I should be. I'm kind of just prioritizing my life over anything, which good and bad. Obviously, prioritizing your life and losing some damage is better than dying and you know, trying to squeeze out a cast, but again, didn't have alter time here, so I just moved to the back and used an ice flows while I was in it so I could cast while moving out. So since we don't have a rogue in this group, we are going to invis pot. One good thing that I love as a mage is you don't actually need invis pot. You have two different invises now. But, you know, our typical invis we can just use to get past it, so I can use pots if I want. Damage pots, that is. All these other people couldn't use damage pots for the first boss, just because of that. So use Ice Blood Destiner here when they're all grouped up. This is a spot where you want to be making sure you have defenses rolling, so I already have a pre-ice barrier that has 14 seconds left. So when these mobs are all dying, you obviously want to make sure you have defenses rolling. So all of them I still had fine health afterwards because I had the pre-defensive and I also got a shield from the healer. But they still do truck, especially on fortified weeks. So again, always you need defensives rolling for almost every single one of those if you're any of the exploding Shahs. Here I'm precasting my Blizzard because I know this Haunted Shah is going to get pulled into the pack. I'm kind of just shading my shifting power. I also end up having to save my second hero here. Unfortunate because we don't have another lust. I actually think I should save it. Yeah. Because we need lust. We're lusting the second boss, obviously. So I can't use my own personal lust here. Yeah, here I had no defensive rolling for this other than the priest was healing, and that chunked me down. Obviously, a very significant margin. We got healed and still almost died. I got knocked down to like 30%. So whether you have mirror image, you have G invis. Obviously, always try and have a barrier for those if you can. If you can alter time them, I'd recommend alter timing if possible. You can really game a lot of the health from those by just alter timing the explosion of like the first 2 or 3 and then getting the other 2 without like a defensive rolling. But Icy Veins here because I know that we're going to be an important pack next. One very lucky thing that I think we ended up looking at after later. I asked here stun order. A pretty important thing in hierarchies, especially on Fortified, is the Golden Beetle in this next pack. It casts Golden Barrier, which basically, whenever the barrier explodes, or like when the barrier is dispelled or the duration expires, or you just do enough damage to remove it, it basically does AoE damage to everybody. So you basically want to try and stun Golden Barrier as much as possible. So what happens here even with this group without comms, we all understand that it's an important cast to interrupt. This first one, I'm pretty sure that the Paladin dodges it. Yep, so that's I think that's a 5-second stun. Followed by Staggering Blow, you don't need interrupt, following by Dragon's Breath. And then I believe I Blast Waved the second one. Yep, Blast Wave the second, and then I think we go into a Feral stun for the next one. Yeah, that got interrupted as well. Or I think it was just some sort of knockback. So even in a non-com group, a M+ group that knows the things that need to be interrupted, you can really actually get these things down without any comms. Again, wouldn't really recommend it because it does have some downsides. But one thing here that I will mention, this Tiger, the Nodding Tiger, while the Beetle is really of high importance because the barrier, the Tiger's Leap does a fuckload of damage. So here I actually I took the last 2 leaves from this Tiger. I definitely could use more defensives. I'm not really using defensives here. I only use the barrier. The way that you can bait the Nodding Tiger is he jumps on the player that's furthest away. So I could be trading spots with someone that's in melee or like the priest or whatever, just to be bouncing back and forth who actually gets this bleed debuff. Because as you just saw there, I want to see if I can actually show how much damage one tick does. 60. I was at 67% plus my barrier and the pre-shield, and it still knocked me down to like 50. So it basically will probably do like 40% of your health, even like with the defensive rolling. So would very much recommend not doing anything. Now for this guy here, I kind of fucked up with what I was doing here. A very minimal thing is you can use this Corrupted Scroll. Obviously he gets to 1 health and you can't do any more damage to him. You can just be spamming crossbolts into him and build up your icicle charges. I was a dummy and sat there and used a flurry and ice lance and lost all my icicles. But you can just spam frostbolts and build up your icicle charges. Same description that I used for like Razageth when he becomes immune for like intermission. So here, at least for Frost Mage, you want to make sure you're not actually cleaving with your icicles, because I'm pretty sure your icicle cleave actually does proc the damage on the other guy. So you want to make sure you're just not either cleaving with, ice lances, and you're not cleaving with your frozen orb. There is later on, I know, and I'll talk about it when it happens, when I cast Shifting Power in this fight. Sorry for the yawn. When I cast Shifting Power, I actually move completely to one side to make sure I don't hit the other. For Frozen Orb, I also wait. No, I don't do it on the first mob. I do it on the second mob when we first swap, just to make sure that I actually don't overcap on the first guys. So like this, when I shifted power, I moved all the way to the side to make sure I wasn't hitting the second guy. I'm not positive shifting power actually procs the intensity debuff on him to make it him do like more damage and not get immune. But just a safety thing. I'd rather have it me doing less damage moving out of the side than anything else. You are gonna do some pretty minimal damage on this boss. You're probably gonna get beast by most classes. I mean, I'm still pumping. I'm doing 85k, but our two other classes are passing back and forth the damage buff, so they're just gonna roll the hell out of me in damage. It probably wouldn't be bad for me to take it, especially during Rune of Power and during the second lust phase, like when you get your own personal lust. But very min-maxy thing. It used to be that you needed to give that to your healer, so your healer could actually out-heal this. But since then, they've nerfed both the healing or like the damage aspect and how much you actually gain from it. So it's not as beneficial to give it to the healer anymore. It's pretty beneficial to give it to a DPS player. So this is the area that we, especially me in this key, needs to be very aware. These Mistweavers, the guy we're fighting right here, which you'll see as soon as I turn my camera. Cast something called Touch of Ruin, which is a decurse. Me and the druids are the only one in the group that can decurse it. I believe I told the druid not to take it unless we're doubling. But we need to be very aware of when it comes out, because basically if it comes out and we don't decurse it, the person will basically get one shot. So very important that we're actually paying attention. So the priest got it here. Here, I'll go back so you can actually see the debuff. This is the debuff on him right now. The Touch of Ruin. Obviously, it's going to show up different on everybody's screens, but that's how I see mine. And it's just I have a mouse over decurse macro, so I just mouse over them and decurse, as you see from my True 5 GCD. So if those go off, it does a shit ton of damage immediately, and then it also does a heal absorb if the explosion actually goes off. So it does seem like the druid actually has decurse, because they got the second one. I never got it, which is really helpful to me. Both of us can do damage for it, but this is a really good spot for us to use our Ice Bud Death Snare, just because a lot of the Shahs you can proc it off of. I would recommend, if you have it, don't use it on pull. Wait for the first Summon Shah cast. So you actually get at least 6 mobs that you can benefit off of, because Ice Bud Death Snare benefits, its damage is reduced beyond 5 targets, but the more targets you have, obviously, it's still going to do better. So just the more targets you can actually proc the damage thing off of is beneficial. Again, same thing for this pack. There's a Mistweaver in this pack, so you need to make sure I'm actually decursing, like I did there. You see it by it's a little purple circle that goes around people, is how you can also tell. You don't necessarily need it on, your bars, but you see the little purple circle around them. That's the debuff. That's something that needs to get dispelled on higher keys. Maybe not as important on lower keys, but as soon as you start hitting, like, I want to say it's like a one-shot in like a 22 key, but it does not feel good. It hurts. So that's the reason why we take decurse in this key. This is the only key you actually need to decurse in. The only things that we really need to be looking out for in these packs is the Haunting Scream. You obviously saw me and the Pally both kicked. Nothing else is really needed for damage for us to deal with, at least me as a Frost Mage. Haunting Gaze is basically just a tank ability, and same with Dark Claw. It's just something that tank deals with. You could use, you know, Dragon's Breath. You could Blast Wave to interrupt it. But yeah. This would be a good opportunity for Death Snare. Yep, like I used it here. The only thing that you can outrange Flame of Death, or Flames of Doubt. Basically, if you don't outrange them and you get hit by it, it will just one-shot you. So definitely be aware of when that cast is going off, because you need to be careful. Again, this is something where you need defensives rolling, because every single one of these Shas that explode are going to do exploding damage to you. So I have Mirror Images rolling. I also have Barrier up. But as you see, this is a great pack to use Iceblood Death Snare on. It's also a massive AoE pack with both the Infestor casting Summon Shah plus the Pat having a Summon Shah on it as well. It's very good for our AoE damage. Now in this pack, the Mistweaver basically becomes Prio. The Defiling Mist is a must interrupt cast, followed by the Touch of Ruin that goes off. The thing that we, again, need to decurse. You saw Defiling Mist was going off there, and ended up being, multiple of us ended up using a CC on it. You saw I had no defensives rolling here. I'll show you how detrimental those Shahs are. I had no defensive rolling, and I go from 85%, and I drop down to 5%. It seemed like each of those exploding Shahs do about 20% of your health per hit. So I would very much recommend, obviously, you know, alter timing, having a barrier up. I have nothing up going on right now, so I have no defenses rolling. But it's the shaman or the priest obviously had the barrier going. Their barrier, I couldn't stand in it because the flames of doubt, but. It was also bursting week. I definitely could have, you know, G-invised or alter timed or ice blocked. Did have a death, so not great, but obviously also losing Icy Veins isn't great. But so when you do skip the pandas, your group does need to go pull this Pat, these two mobs, this Mistweaver and the other mob, because you're missing percent from when you don't do the pandas at the beginning. At the beginning of the second boss, that is. This is the route that most groups are doing now, is grabbing these two mobs with one of these packs. Again, any pack that has a Mistweaver in it is something you need to be aware of for the Touch of Ruin. So again, focusing the Mistweaver here, and then any pack that also had any of the Shahs in it, the exploding Shahs, is a pack that you need to, well, not need to. That is a good Iceblood Death Snare pack. Again, I didn't even have Icy Veins rolling, and I still did 124k. So there's not really much that that Frost Mage can do on this fight. There's nothing we can do to help the tank in P2. It's just, you know, slam your damage. There's nothing special for this fight for Frost Mages. Obviously, dodge the flame frontals, and dodge the green. Wow, I'm blanking on the name for them. The green waves. That's what they are. The waves in P2. But other than that, it's just a pure damage fight for any DPS player. As well for ranged. There's a little bit of things in P3 that I'll go over, but not really much. Again, this is just a complete DPS fight for us. There's nothing that ranged players need to worry about. We're just basically standing still. As long as we don't get hit by any of the waves in this, we're fine. I probably should have Iceblood Death Snare here. Yep. Just get it on cooldown as soon as possible. Unfortunately, our druid died. They got gripped out there and then didn't know where they were, which was unfortunate. But oh well. As you see how much the tank is getting trucked by, they are, this second phase, when the healer can't dispel, is a massive thing that they need to be healing. Again, like I said, as a range player, there's a range player with no off heals. There's nothing that we can do to help anyone in this case. Okay, so this is the thing I would say for P2 or for P3. Don't do what I do and Blizzard this. So the threat table for this boss gets completely, at least it appears to be completely reset when it phases from P2 to P3, which P3 gets the dragon. As you see, he basically immediately aimed at me. I'm not sure if he actually had threat on me. I'm gonna see if I can tell. I'll see if my target here is on me at all. But there have been a multiple amount of times where I Blizzard and I'm in like melee range and immediately just get one shot meleeed. So I wouldn't really recommend that. It's very minimal damage increase and has the chance of you dying. But that's why I ran all the way to the outside, because I know that if I ran to the outside, I could I'd basically be able to run away before the boss would actually melee me, and the tank would be able to taunt it. So here I'm not casting another Icy Veins just because he only had 4 million health left. Typically I don't cast him Icy Veins unless the mob has around like 8 million health left, if I can. I was pretty scared for this next pack because the Pally was going to double it. Because there are 2 Mistweavers and there's 3 different kicks we need for this one. So when there is 2 different Mistweavers, you actually can only get 1 dispel as a mage because your decurse is on an 8-second cooldown when it happens. So I told the druid that I was going to need help with dispelling here. Because the Mistweavers in this pack, there's 1 in this first pack and 1 in the second pack. And they both put out Touch of Ruins. Unless the Touch of Ruin goes on someone at the same time, yeah. Which they're desynced here, unfortunately. I'm getting the first one. The druid dispelled me, or decursed me, which means I'm gonna need to get the second decurse. So I get the priest. The next one is the druid should get the priest, and then I'm gonna get the next cast. Again, this is all done without comms, so this is something that we didn't even comm at all. If either of us doubled up on that first cast, it was just the person who got the second one would just immediately die. I was very happy that you got the first one, Eyes. If either of us did it, because is your remove curse on the on a cooldown? Because mine's an 8-second. I don't know if yours is. I think yours is also on a cooldown. If either of us both cursed at the same time, anyone who got the second one would have just died. There would have been nothing we could have done. So again, it's just AoE now at this point, so just keeping Blizzard and Frozen Orb up. Yeah, it's a cooldown if you dispel something. It's not a cooldown no matter what if I do it. Even if I dispel it or not dispel it. It gets put on a cooldown. Your stupid typhoons hit everything out of my Blizzard. Swear to God. Would rather do less damage than have a tidal burst go off, so I mean fair. Also, whoops on the no lust. Again, this is a great Iceblood Death Snare pack. Obviously, I could have waited for a summon shot and had even more use or benefit from it, but I just sent it because these mobs are obviously important to kill too. The other one would have just been padding on the exploding shaws. So This is the only downside to running Temporal Warp when you are in a group that doesn't have actual another lust, is I lusted for another time on that boss, and I didn't shifting power enough, and we actually just didn't have enough time for me to get it back. So I just didn't have lust for this pack, which is a typical lust pack, at least on Fort Weeks. I also didn't want to Icy Veins here. This Shambling Investor is pretty much dead. Lose a little bit of damage here, but not too big of a deal. It's fine holding your a cooldown here. Just because I actually do need it for boss. Also, this first one is massive for priests. Playing on my Shadow Priest, I realized that you can actually master MD the first and second touch of nothingness. I know it's also massive for, at least for me as a Frost Mage. I can obviously Ice Block 2 of them, so. So here, at least for the intermission, I like trying to save Orb for it. I actually think I don't end up saving it for this one. I think, yeah, I immediately send it. Because typically I'm able to get it back within the first, like, tick. Well, not the first tick of damage, but the first, right when intermission starts. Either I can send a single target Blizzard here. So the Priest actually knew. I'm glad the Priest dispelled their Druid here. They saw I had Ice Block. I was kind of going to wait. Typically you can insta-do it or wait. Frost Mage, since we have 2 Ice Blocks, we're actually able to, you can Ice Block off the Touch of Nothingness debuff, which is the thing that really trucks on this boss. You can wait for the Healer to dispel if you communicate that beforehand, but we didn't. I'm also kind of paying attention to when the Priest MDs and not. I knew the Priest mass dispelled the last one, so I knew they were only going to have a single dispel for this one, so I knew if it got on me I could have Ice Blocked. I'm very glad the Priest dispelled the Druid and not me, because I did have Ice Block. Obviously, I immediately used Cold Snap, so I have an Ice Block up from the next one if it happens. So this one's obviously going to Mass Dispel. Yeah. Priest is so good for this last fight. I'm holding Icy Veins just because I knew I wanted the rune and I wanted the haste for this intermission. Be careful by getting melees from your old fragments. They do a fuck ton of damage. Did I pot this key? I thought I had 14 beforehand. What am I doing? I'm also glad that we were smart and weren't clearing Thundering right away. And actually using the damage buff. Especially on this boss where there's almost no possible way that you can not clear Thundering. Also, I was low health there. I should have just used the head of defensive rolling, like in my barrier or something. I just didn't, and was very surprised I didn't get one shot. Well, not one shot, but I didn't die from that. This one I know should be MD. Yeah. That means the next one I know I have Ice Block up for if needed. I'm pre-casting Blizzard for all of these, just because when the mobs actually land, I'll have Blizzard rolling. Unfortunately, I didn't have Frozen Orb, but I also didn't. Yeah, I didn't have Frozen Orb until the very end there, which is kind of a little sus. But I did really bad damage on this boss compared to what I normally do. I normally do around like 85, 90k for this boss. I just had really bad CD management for this boss. You almost always want your Frozen Orb, and for every single intermission. You literally just weren't taking damage from Touch of Nothingness. I don't know what it is. I don't know what you Pharaohs have, but you guys just take no damage. But yeah, this is this 24 Temple. No comms. Timed. I'm also, at this point, I'm also out of inventory, so I can't loot my Primal Chaos, because I'm just horrific at, at clearing my bags. But yeah, that's, the temple. This group is still obviously going together. We're gonna do some more keys this week. But I have a few more keys that I did with them that, I'll have some more commentaries coming out. Like I said, it's a Nakud, a 24 Nakud, 25 Shadow Moon, 25 Court, and a 24 Algathar. So those will all be coming out relatively soon. I'm hoping they're coming out within the next... They'll be out within the next few days. But yeah, that was the 24th Temple. Main things for this, especially as Frost Mage, anything more than... As always, anything more than 2 target and M+, keep your... Keep Blizzard rolling, Frozen Orb on cooldown. There's some packs, obviously you saw here, that I held Icy Veins for, just like that very pack at the end one, but... yeah, that's it for my commentary for this 24 Temple.